Howdy, all. We have some, decent subjects to talk about this afternoon, but I wanted to start with something pretty silly. Every Wednesday I get together with my brother for coffee and something, for breakfast. And there's a bagel chain, a local bagel chain in the Buffalo area that apparently is pretty close to New York style bagels. They bake them fresh every day and they're really good. And somebody comes into the shop, who's in line before me, and it says, well, let me have a garlic bagel toasted with peanut butter. And I'm like, okay, food sins. Peanut butter on a toasted bagel?
Peanut butter on a plain toasted bagel is okay. I think once you go with the flavoring, it's over.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Like, now me, and this is just me. If it's a toasted bagel, it's butter. I can't. One time I made a mistake, or one time the place that I ordered a bagel from made the mistake and gave me cream cheese on a toasted bagel, and the cream cheese was all sort of melted and
which
watery.
is great. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it grosses me out. I hated the taste. And
I'll tell you, the Cohen family invented the cream cheese and butter on a bagel, toasted or otherwise.
The mix.
The mix.
Oh my God, my arteries are
good.
My arteries are hardening just thinking about that.
I know, but it is good. I have to say. I mean, now I do it with like fake cream cheese and smart balance butter, right? So like,
well, please, anybody who puts margarine on toast or on a bagel or light cream cheese, would you please? The difference is 40 friggin' calories. Get the real stuff.
Cream cheese, it's a lot more, and for the butter, it's made out of better items. I eat real butter once in a while, but you can't eat real butter all the time; you'll die. Just the way.
Well, see ya, because I do.
Well, yeah.
But no, with me, it's like a freshly baked, untoasted bagel with cream cheese. There you go. Or a toasted bagel with butter.
I'll give you my favorite. My favorite is a toasted salt bagel with butter.
Salt bagel. Yeah, I got the onion bagel with
the onion's good too. Everything's good. I used to love garlic. Garlic doesn't love me on a bagel for some reason. So I go with the salt bagel. But it's hard to get a good salt bagel. I found them in Philly and I found them in Delaware.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Jersey, where I am, not so great. If you go northern Jersey, it's fine.
And, I had friends who just recently visited New York City and they went to some place. They said, it's the best bagels ever. And, the
problem is there's not that many bagel places left in New York City. There's really not.
Yeah.
Most diners or restaurants that you go to, those bagels are coming from Brooklyn. And in the city itself, there's not that many places. But there is a Brooklyn bagel place. I forget where it is. It's great. It's a fairly new place, and they use all kinds of fancy ingredients. They've probably got like 30 different types of spreads to put on. It's amazing. A lot of people wait online there. I waited online there.
Well, and I won't say the name of the chain, but there's a chain very popular in Canada and the U.S., especially in the Buffalo area, that they specialize in donuts. And of course, they double in everything else like muffins and bagels. And their bagels are horrendous. So they have no taste. They taste like they're stale, even when they've probably just been made. It's So
I feel like if you can't make a good bagel, don't make it at all.
Right. Exactly. And like somebody like Dunkin' Donuts tries to get in on it, and it's like, okay, no, just do what you do best. They tried, but anyway.
One thing I'll tell you, I will say this. The little bagelettes from Lender's, if you have to, is not terrible.
No, the frozen bagels?
Yeah.
No,
they're the only ones that are at least passable.
Yes. Okay.
I love a good bialy. If you don't know what a bialy is, look it up. It's great.
Yeah, and some of the local supermarkets will also do a decent job, but yeah, no, peanut butter on a bagel, just can't do it. Anyway. All right. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, December 13th, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We had 9 games in the NHL last night. We'll talk about some of them in a few minutes, but there was some news and some interesting items that popped up from last night's game. Starting with the news from this morning, there was a report that was quickly sort of retracted coming out regarding the KHL. They issued a statement saying that they were going to back Russian players playing in the Olympics as under the neutral OAR designation that the IOC came up with, that they were going to release players from Hockey Canada.
Can we buy OAR jerseys yet and hats? Are they available?
You got me. But then they were, and it was reported by one of our bloggers for Hockey Buzz, Avis Clinton's, and a couple other of the Russian outlets. And then when the KHL released the statement, either retracted or released the official statement, the original, the paragraph that said they were going to release the players was missing. And now all of a sudden it's still sort of up in the air what the KHL is going to do with the players. Sort of like it sounds like it's like
I think the red phone in the KHL office rang and Vlad was on the line and said, "Night,
yeah, Vlad from Moscow. You're the next caller on the KHL postgame show." Yeah, I mean, I don't know. All I know.
And they're doing this on purpose. They are.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is sort of destabilizing, but now
that's exactly what they're trying to do. At this point, they are trying to destabilize it to some degree. They really are, because they are going to make the IOC or at least the other teams go without those players. And then if they say, hey, they're okay to do it, then they'll cause even further trouble. Like it just seems like that's the way it's going. Yeah,
I mean, right now as it stands, it says the new official position is that the KHL participation is not resolved. And then if that's the case, then, and we're in limbo. It's like, and we're less than 2 months away from the Olympics.
It's crazy. The whole thing is crazy at this point. Like, I don't want to say these hockey games are marred, but there's a big black cloud over them.
Yeah. Oh no. I think marred is a perfectly good description of it. I mean, I think the tournament is bordering on being a joke right now. And you know what? From the Hockey Canada perspective, it was only one period, but this has got to be a warning sign. This pre-Olympic tournament that's going on, I believe, in Russia right now, Canada is playing South Korea, and South Korea is in the tournament based on the fact that they're hosting the Olympics. South Korea is beating Canada 2-1 after the first period. And this is a team that has, a lot of the KHL players like Matt Fratton and Brandon Kozin and Scrivens that
are playing for South Korea.
You got me. Is Jim Pack still playing? Or
no, they probably bought some players. They probably had some people from other leagues come over. Like, how coaches from Canada or whatever will coach other countries. I bet you they've got.
Is Ted Nolan coaching them?
Let's see. I'm going to look up the South Korean roster.
I remember there was a Maple Leaf defenseman in the 80s named Bob Mano, who was of Italian background, and he played for Italy in the Olympics, even though he was born in Canada. So I mean,
I got it up here, and South Korean men's national team, 2017. Let's see if I can get a roster.
Meanwhile, let's get the results from the Alabama Senate. Right? No, just kidding.
I will tell you this. So as far as the standings go in the World Championships, which I guess is like tier 2 for them, they came in second to Austria. Kazakhstan third, Poland, Hungary, and the Ukraine were last. I still can't get a roster. So, here we go. Matt Dalton and Park Sunji are the goalies.
Okay,
Matt Dalton certainly doesn't sound South Korean, but
no.
Alex Plant. Now, Alex Plant is definitely not South Korean.
No, I've heard that name before.
Yeah, Alex Plant. He played for the Oilers. He was drafted in 2007. And, yeah, his brother was Tyler. Yeah, I do remember him as a player.
Yes.
So, yeah, they're feeding off of other players that, like Michael Swift, he is certainly not that.
Yeah, Alex Plant played 10 games for Edmonton between 2009 and 2012.
Michael Swift, I'm sure they call him Swifty, played for the Peterborough Bees, the Mississauga Ice Dogs, the Lowell Devils, the Albany Devils, Worcester, and then he started playing overseas. So, like, again, yeah, this guy is from where is he from?
Peterborough, Ontario. Peterborough. Yes, I never knew Peterborough was a suburb of Seoul.
Yeah. So he was signed as a free agent by the Devils. So yes, so that's what they're doing.
Okay. All right. So we will be tracking that because it's going to have something to do. That's going to have a great effect on Hockey Canada. And the thing is, all these different teams, the U.S., the Canadians, the Finns, the Swedes, they have to have a backup plan in case the KHL does go the direction of not letting these players go. I don't think that's going to happen because there's going to be IIHF sanctions if that does happen, but we don't know. And it's sort of like we're getting tired of this game. Let's make a determination and let's move forward. But anyway, okay, two last night's games, and this is not specifically about the games, but a couple things that happened after the games. You were in Philadelphia, so tell the story about bless you. Tell the story about Mike Babcock in the press.
So in the game, there was a contentious face-off in the first period where Patrick Marleau was in the circle, and I guess he was, he went too early, did it more than once. They booted him out, and so then Zach Hyman went against Couturier. And at the time he was booted out, Babcock was already screaming from the bench. Couturier gets in there. When Couturier's in there, Giroux sets up behind him because he sees that, hey, I think Couturier could take this from Zach Hyman, draw it back to me. He did one-timer goal, and that just incensed Babcock. And even post-game, when he was asked a question about it, blamed the refs, and then walked out of the circle pretty quickly. Like we had to, it was a hasty exit. It was like a minute 20, which would be a long press conference for John Tortorella, but still a short one. He came in that press conference nice and composed, Babcock, and really got mad at that question.
Yeah, and it was strange because in watching the TSN broadcast.
Now, what did he exactly say about the refs? Because I couldn't hear from where I was.
Well, there's good video of him after the goal, and I won't say what he said you could read lips, and there was definitely an expletive or two in there.
Yeah, but I mean post game.
But post game, he essentially said, "Did you look at the face-off?"
I heard that.
And he says, the officials try to stay away from the game, try to stay away from having an effect on the game, and then
that's what
he sort of. At that point, I think he caught himself because I think he would have probably said the next thing he would have said would have been something critical of the officials like he did on the bench.
Right.
And then he, left the scrum without really answering the question, but that's his prerogative.
Right.
Tortorella took a different approach. Tortorella was, guys, I'm not going to answer your questions. We lost 7-2 to Edmonton. I think he realized that at any question he was going to be asked, he was going to explode. So he just went to the media room or went to the wherever the scrum was and said, "I'm not going to do this." And 14 seconds he walks out.
Yeah, I think that's immature. I do. He's the only coach that I can recall that's ever really done it like that. I mean, sure, we've seen interviews where guys just give one-word answers like Belichick, but at least he is providing answers, even if there are only one-word answers, and he's sitting up there. When you don't answer anything, first off, your fans have no idea what you're thinking, what's happening with the players, what in the room, none of that. If there's an injury or anything, they don't know about anything. So now there's nothing, right? Paper writes nothing, team writes nothing. So you as a fan know nothing until he decides to talk again, or they talk to the players the day after or even 2 days after, depending if there's a day off or something. So that's where I think, he does himself a disservice, and I'm sure the league's going to fine him because to me, that's a finable offense.
Uh, I see. I don't know if they'll fine him. I mean, it would be one thing if he sent out the media relations guy and says John's not going to take questions. He didn't
That's the
take
same
questions.
thing. He did the same thing. He basically walked to the podium and said, "Guys, I know you have a job. I know you're here, but we lost 7-2, and I'm not going to talk about it." He basically said he's not going to talk about it. That violates rules.
Well, he pulled a Cam Newton because Cam Newton.
Yeah, but I don't know what the NFL rules are, but I'm pretty sure the NHL has rules that state that a coach has to talk after a game.
Well, don't you remember? Wasn't it Marshawn Lynch at the Super Bowl the one year where he just said the same thing over and over? He just said the same, I'm here because I have to be here, blah 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 blah, and he just repeat. And the press got nothing out of him. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to answer questions, so he did it, but he did it sort of in a smart ass sort of way. I don't know. I mean, I would be surprised if he gets fined by the league. I would.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay. Now the other thing that sort of goes in this direction, but I think it's more of a team thing, and most teams are adhering to this. And we talked about this a few weeks.
Let me stop you one here. See, and this is something else, and I'm sure he doesn't mind, but you kind of wonder if Columbus will mind if, Tortorella does this 2 or 3 more times, because all of a sudden here's like a headline from SI. Tortorella's speechless after they get routed. They show the video, and then they're like, noted hockey curmudgeon. And you see, he was trying to get out of that mold for the last couple of years. And I felt did a pretty good job the last couple of years shaking that.
Yeah, but I think he was
back to that now.
He was trying to get out of that mode with his players. I think he's always maintained it.
No. I'm telling you, last 2 or 3 scrums I've seen him in, way more pleasant. I've seen a lot of filmed ones, way more pleasant. No, I think he was turning the corner, and now I think he has slipped back. And this is what will be written about him now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's true, but I think a leopard can't change his spots, and I think just like Randy Carlyle, when he came to Toronto, he was much more friendly with the media after having the crusty Carlyle moniker given to him in Anaheim. Yeah. And now, now he's back in Anaheim, and I think he's pretty much crusty Carlyle again. And then that's what he had to do that in Toronto. Maybe Tortorella thinks he doesn't have to put on those airs in Columbus anymore because he's more secure with his job. He won Coach of the Year last year, so he can afford to be more.
Although we know what happens when you win Coach of the Year.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, that does happen.
It won't happen in Columbus, but I'm just saying.
Yep. So the other thing regarding teams and coaches, and we heard about it a few weeks back when Ken Hitchcock made the comment that he wished the league would stop with the unspecific nature of descriptions of injuries, upper body, lower body. That was Pat Quinn back in the day with the Maple Leafs, offering the very lawyerly response to an injury. And I mean, I understand it to a point. There's the old adage about don't be specific with an injury because the other teams will target the injury. But it's getting to the point now, and I'll be a little critical of Mike Babcock, but he's by no means not the only one who does this. The injury to Austin Matthews, he's sat 2 games in a row after colliding with Morgan Riley on Saturday in a game in Pittsburgh. They didn't have they had an optional morning skate. He didn't participate. Babcock said, well, he might play, he might not play. We'll know tonight before the pregame skate. And then after the game, William Nylander said, I pretty much knew this morning. So there wasn't full disclosure there. Then he is asked by Christian Chilton of TSN. Asked about the extent of the injury and whether he had gone through concussion protocol, because the collision was Riley's helmet to Matthews' chin. Right. And Babcock's response was, well, I didn't know he was in concussion protocol, which he's the head coach. He knows everything. He knows everything, or he should know everything. And I knowing Babcock and knowing how attuned he is to his players and to his job, he would know it. But it goes, and this is there are other teams there as well. I get I get to a certain point during the playoffs with the secrecy, with the lack of specificity. But when you're talking about a player like Matthews and you're saying, well, he's day to day and that could mean 10 days. No, we need, as the media, we need specifics. And there is that still that shroud of secrecy that these teams want to put.
Well, here's an interesting thing. Okay, so like we saw with Corey Perry, it literally took probably 12 hours or more to get a result out of what was going on with Corey Perry, and now we find out he's out for weeks. What was it, like 3 to 4 weeks or something?
Yeah.
And so now today with Taylor Hall, nothing came out last night. John Hines just said at like a noon briefing that it's a right knee contusion and he's day to day. But here's the thing. If you search out right knee contusion, like you look on Livestrong or any of those websites, that it could be anything from a few days to a few weeks.
Right.
And this is where, the fans sort of get left out in the dark a little bit as to really what's going on with the player, because now he's probably going to miss this short road trip I think they're on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll see. But a lot of these players, they say, oh, yeah, it's day to day, and it does go into weeks. And that does affect a team. It affects a lot of different things. It affects you buying tickets for a game. Maybe I want to see Taylor Hall, now I'm not gonna. Those kinds of things come into play, and that's where it becomes a little complicated. I do wish there was more transparency with it. Teams know when other players are hurt. Other teams, like trainers, when the injuries happen, have an idea already of what's going on with the other team. Players talk. Like, I don't think there's a great mystery here with a lot of these injuries. And other than playing in the Stanley Cup or maybe even in the Stanley Cup playoffs, for regular season, I don't see where there's a real advantage to hiding these things.
No, I don't.
Or being vague.
Right. Now, and this is the thing. We still don't know. We have hints. We have speculation. We still don't know what the unspecified upper body injury was with Matthews last month. That's all it was said. Unspecified upper body injury. Some people thought it was his back. Some people thought it was the shoulder. Some people thought it was a hand. Other people, there's even some speculation that it was a concussion, but we don't know. And the thing is,
that's the thing. They lead everybody to speculate when they're not told something.
Right. And the thing is, as somebody who is a responsible reporter, I don't want to report speculation. So all I continue to do is say it's an unspecified upper body injury. But the thing is that, the people who pay tickets, the people want to know what the injury is and when he'll be back. And you can't talk about the severity of the injury or the time frame of what it's going to be if you don't know what it is. So,
you know what? Here's the few things that I've learned. It seems like there's, a belief of some of the guys on the press corps that Matthews won't even play on this trip, even though he's with them. And so, like, that's, already that's where we're all sort of just guessing and in the dark.
Right. And
that's what's going to be written. And if the team is going to be vague about an injury, then they have to understand that there's going to be a lot of conjecture otherwise.
And see, the thing is that that lack of specificity opens up the team to even more criticism in a way, because say, for example, it's a concussion, then what the hell is he getting on 3 plane flights for? Because that's the worst thing that can happen, different pressurization and all that stuff, if he has a concussion. If he doesn't have a concussion, then, and it's, say, a hand injury, then okay, fine. But you open yourself up for that skepticism and that questioning based on what people think the injury is. So
no question. I mean, and in the chat room, they're like, hey, but if you say that this guy's got a sore elbow, he might get checked in the boards. I got a news flash for you.
He's going to check in the boards anyway.
Right. If it's Sidney Crosby, whether he's got an elbow injury or not, he's getting checked into the boards anyhow.
Right. All right. Let's touch on a few of the games from last night. The one that I watched and you were at, the Flyers and the Maple Leafs. The Flyers win 4-2. Sean Couturier scores the go-ahead goal with about 3 minutes left to go in regulation. Now, just an overview on the game as I saw it, and I want to get your opinion on it. The Leafs, and I'm going to write about this tomorrow, the Leafs are falling into a pattern that is well known with Maple Leaf fans, going back to the days of Randy Carlyle, where they're playing incomplete efforts. They're playing a good 15, 20 minutes, and then if they do get a lead, which they have the last few games, they're sitting back. They're trying to prevent good scoring chances, keeping the opposition to the outside. Lots of shots on goal. And honestly, I don't care. I really don't care about the quality of this shot. I think if you put 40 shots on goal, that's even if they're from the point or from the outside, that's not a good thing. The Flyers scored the tying goal last night. It was a shot from the just inside the blue line that went off of two Leaf players before it got by Anderson. And when you crash the front of the net and you don't allow the goaltender to see things, it's tough for him to stop the puck. And it was 30. The shots were 39-22, and I believe it was I think the Leafs. It was like 28-14 in the final two periods. So they basically sat back after taking a 2-1 lead and let Philadelphia carry the play.
Well, I mean, the Flyers blocked a lot of shots. They did. Guys like Marner were trying to shoot a little bit, and we're getting them blocked. I did see off of Justin Bourd's Twitter feed, he thought it was a good idea when, and I don't know what point in the game it was, where Marner tried to sort of steal a puck and maybe go the length of the ice with it. It didn't happen, and Provorov basically kept it in his end. And it's like, here's the thing about that. There was a play, and I think this was in the third period, where the Leafs tried to give Marner like a headman pass that was on the side boards, and Provorov was maybe, 4 or 5, about 3 or 4 steps away from him. And he caught him and knocked him against the boards and got the puck. So even then, Marner wasn't finding that open ice. So, I get that you like the feistiness of the kid because he is an elite player. I'm not sure that's the play to make, though, against that game tightened up a lot when it was 1-1. And so that's why I wouldn't have tried to make that play. But again, whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still not getting enough shots on net, Mitch Marner. He's getting, power play assists, and that's helping to pad his numbers.
Yeah, and he only has 2 goals this year, and that's something that people are pointing out. And here's the thing: clearly, even from Babcock's remarks at the end of the game, they were playing for the point near the end of the third. And this is what drives people insane about Jake Gardiner, because with 3 minutes to go in a 2-2 game, you try to keep the puck in at the point. You get beaten to the puck. It gets pushed up the boards. Giroux makes an unbelievable pass in between his legs and Zaitsev's legs to Couturier. Couturier was the high man in the defensive zone. So as soon as the puck got by Gardiner, he went flying towards the Leaf net and gets the puck and beats Anderson.
Right.
What the hell are you doing trying to keep the puck in the zone and putting yourself in a bad position in a tie game with 3 minutes left to go? That's why Jake Gardiner has so much natural ability, but his hockey IQ is, to me, relatively low.
Yeah, I thought he was having a good game up to that point, though, to be honest. I actually thought Gardiner had done some good things, but in the end, you only get remembered for the bad things when you're a defenseman, and unless you have such an overwhelmingly good record. So I think the criticism is fair. Looking at Marner, he's got 1 power play goal, 6 power play assists. So like 13 even strength points for him. More is expected. Even though he's 20, more is expected of him. So somehow they've got to spring him loose a little more. They've got to, figure it out why. And and Nylander was pretty invisible in that game too. He really was.
Yeah, and I like I told you off air, in 3 straight games he's played 4th line winger, 1st line center, 2nd line winger. They're moving around the chessboard an awful lot, and that doesn't exactly promote consistency when you're shifting lines and shifting positions. Just a little bit off the ice on this game, and then we'll move on to other games. Yeah, I know that you posted.
By the way, here, and maybe this is a theme that we should be looking at.
Yeah.
Nylander has 8 power play points, so he's only got 13 even strength points. I wonder if the Leafs are kind of getting owned at even strength at times in games.
Well, their power play, and then the funny thing is, Marner's on the first power play, Nylander's on the second power play.
Right.
So getting that many points on the second power play, which, by the way, their second power play has Matthews on it. So
yeah.
That's a
big reason.
Yeah, that's a nice luxury to have. But I know that you posted on Twitter that there was some not out of the ordinary scouting sightings in the press box last night at the Flyers game. And as I reported a couple weeks ago when I was up at the Air Canada Center, and it was the day before the GM's meetings in Montreal, but still it was curious that Glenn Sather and a couple other Rangers scouts were at the Leafs game. And now last night there was another Ranger scout at that game, along with, I think it was Ottawa and Vegas, correct?
Yeah, Ottawa, Vegas, Anaheim. But the thing is, with the Rangers situation, they weren't playing the Leafs until the 23rd, and they had just recently seen them. I'm not sure enough has changed that you really need to scout them for one game, right? So there is something there. Tyler Bozak was playing. They need a center. I think it's fair to say they would try and trade for Tyler Bozak. I'm pretty sure he's on their radar. So, and I think he might be on the radar for multiple teams. I think Ottawa might have been there for other reasons, to make other trades, and maybe that's a Matt Duchene trade. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, and we'll talk about Ottawa next, but with their situation right now, and I can see if a guy like Cody Ceci is on the block, if the Leafs are not in the mindset of trading for and spending, expending significant assets to get a legitimate top 2 defenseman like a Carlson or a Doughty or whatever, which are long shots. Ceci is in a situation where he's an RFA. He's making a little less than $3 million. He's probably going to expect more than $4 million on a new deal. Something in the Clefbaum, Larson range, something of that regard. If he's going to ask for that kind of money, and we know Ottawa's fiscal problems, especially with their owner, maybe a guy like a Ceci would be somebody who's on the Leafs' radar. He's a right-hand shot defenseman. He's young. I think he's a quality player. He's not having a great year this year, but it's not going to be Bozak because I don't think they're going to be interested in. They're going to be interested in some of the younger players that the Leafs have. So I think that's probably where a Ceci deal would go. But Bozak, they have the option this year of moving Nylander to the middle, which I don't think they want to do because it's a contract year. But they could move Marleau there just for the rest of the year.
I mean, Marleau had a heck of a game last night. Face-off. Other than the face-off, he was all over the place, and the Flyers had no real answer for him. So he can play the position.
Yeah, I don't think Bozak is coming back. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. No. So moving him before the deadline, I think
it seems like JVR is not going to get moved before the deadline. Well, but they're not going to have two guys. But they're not going to have 2 guys not moved before the deadline. You know what I mean? Because they can adjust for the loss of Bozak. So that's why I do think he's the likely guy that moves.
Right. There's no ready replacement in terms of Van Riemsdyk. But that's where I saw the insider trading spot on TSN. And they continue to mention this term "own rental" when it comes to Van Riemsdyk. And this is basically you have a UFA, you have a player who's integral to your team. You maybe cannot get what you think is fair or full value for him, and he's somebody who makes them. I don't think the Leafs are a legitimate Stanley Cup contender in terms of being. I know they have a top 4 or 5 record in the league right now, but they're very young. They have a lot of holes. They could advance in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to get to the Stanley Cup final.
Right.
And that's why keeping Van Riemsdyk and letting him walk in July is I think the worst case scenario for the Leafs going forward. They may very well do it, but if it's me and I'm looking at the situation, if you're not going to re-sign him, if you're not going to spend that extra $5 million that you get with the new cap, for next year, then you trade him at the deadline. You're not winning the Stanley Cup this year, so why the hell wouldn't you get as much as you can for him at the deadline? You'd be able to get a pretty good package for a guy who's probably going to score 35 goals this year.
You would, and I'm with you. I mean, and it was nice of you to point out that he was traded for Luke Shen. You did drop that last night on Twitter.
And our friend Anthony said, "Thanks for reminding us, Mike."
Yeah, that was really nice that you put that out there.
Yeah, I was spreading love and joy. Okay. Other games.
By the way, Couturier had a great game too. Don't want to take away from that.
Yes,
he was tremendous, and he's been tremendous all year. He's an all-star in my mind. Like, he should be on the all-star team.
Yeah, and for those who said he was going to be basically a shutdown center because that's what he was early in his career. The one thing I give Hackstall, I tip my hat to Hackstall, is that he gave Couturier the opportunity to
show that he had more. And Couturier said himself he had been lobbying for that for a while.
Yeah,
wasn't given a chance. So,
he was a scorer in junior. He's got the ability.
Yeah.
Okay. The game right here in River City, the Sabres and the Senators. Sabres were up 3-0, hold on to win 3-2. Now, the Sabres are going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
But the Senators, it continues to decompensate. And we talked a lot about the Cole Carlson thing yesterday, but let's talk about the guys other than Carlson, because they make the Duchesne deal, and really they have not done anything since then, since the acquisition. Not to blame Duchesne for that, but it hasn't been a good fit. The team is going in a bad direction. They've dug themselves a hole that I think even a ridiculously good second half would not get them back into the playoff race.
Yeah.
So now you have this group of 4 players, 2 RFAs, Mark Stone and Cece. You have Mike Hoffman, who's a really good scoring winger, who signed a long-term extension that was backloaded, and the first year or two were cheaper than the cap hit. Now he's making almost $6 million on the remaining 4 years of the deal for each year. And you have Duchesne, who's a UFA after next season.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 4, who do you think makes the most sense if they're going to start paring down and dealing off? Who do you think makes the most sense of them to trade and would bring back the best return?
I think it's going to be Matt Duchesne.
And is it solely because he has been there the least?
He's been there the least. It's not fitting, and he still has tremendous value.
Yeah, but don't you think that value has taken a hit since the
because like sometimes it just doesn't work out. Teams recognize that, and so like I
agree with that to a point. If it was just the fit in Ottawa, but it's on top of him scoring 2 points in the last 25 games with the Avs. He started the year and he had like 10 points in like I think 14 or 15 games before the trade. But this is like 2 long swaths of time with
I'm looking at a website called otherleague.com that has head coaching contracts, and they've got Guy Boucher with 3 years left. So some people think the heat is on, but there's no way they will torch him with 3 years left.
No, especially unless the only way is if they hire somebody who's already on their staff, because then they wouldn't have to pay another salary.
If this is right, I'm not sure it's right. I'm not sure because it's
for some reason I thought it was a 3-year deal.
Yeah, I don't think it's been updated. I think there's 2 years left.
Yeah, I think he's in year 2 of a 3-year deal. I'm fairly sure, because remember, he was plan B when the Leafs didn't sign Babcock.
Right.
Or if the Leafs had struck out on Babcock and he had gone to Buffalo, their plan B was Boucher. They waited a year, and then Boucher came back and signed with Ottawa, and they go to the conference final the first year. But
and I guess Hoffman would be the second guy because there is cost certainty with him already.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you follow the Turris example, but no, Turris was a UFA, and he was not going to go any, he was going to go, and they had no control over it. They have some control in terms of arbitration with Stone and Cece, but Cece is like a Trouba situation. You've got, he had the 3-year entry level. He signed a 2-year bridge. Now he's going to, if they keep him, he goes to arbitration again. He opts for a 2-year deal. He's walking right into unrestricted free agency. So, I mean, that's, I would not want to be in Pierre Dorian's shoes right now.
No, it's a tough spot. I'm looking at Mike Hoffman's contract, and he's good to 2020. So you could trade him now, and somebody gets 2.5 years on him if you're going to really do it. So that would get a lot of, and he's under $6 million as a cap hit.
Yeah,
that would get a lot of attention.
Okay, other games last night, the Devils, we mentioned Taylor Hall earlier, but Taylor Hall scored 2 goals in a 5-1 victory over the LA Kings. The Kings are still, 29-3 right now. They're having a great year. But, for those people who thought the Devils would fade and that the Devils were not for real, like they were a few years ago in John Hines' first year when they really did well and then they sort of drifted off. This is a much younger, much quicker team, and Corey Schneider is playing like Corey Schneider again. So I don't think this team is going to fall back.
I guess. I think you're right. I do.
We don't know the extent. Like I said, if they lose Hall for a week or so, that
I think if they lose him, I think they could. I do think they could weather it. I do. I'm of the belief right now. How many goals does Brian Gibbons have? What has he got? Like 12 goals?
Yeah, nine or 10 at least. For me,
maybe he's going to keep going. John Hines is a very good coach, and I just think somehow he's got the ear of these players. He's got 12 goals, and might be able to do this. I did offer on the radio that maybe they can bring Blake Spears up. Let's see how Blake Spears is doing. He's 20 now. He's got good size, and he's only got 6 points with Binghamton, so that's probably unlikely.
Yeah.
But he can score goals. It's just sometimes you play better with better players. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I think they can weather it though for a couple of weeks.
Okay. Capitals beat the Colorado Avalanche 5-2. Capitals, again, we said yesterday, I haven't been as impressed. Obviously, they're not the same team that they were last year when they were loaded up for the playoff run. They're still 19-12-1. They still have the goaltending with Holtby and Grubauer as a backup. Now, the news came out yesterday from a couple different sources and it was interesting that Samsonov posted on Instagram, thanking Brian McClellan for basically taking him out to dinner and there's indications are that they reached a verbal agreement that Samsonov will come over next year. So for
starting on Braden Holtby for sure.
Yeah. Now we said it yesterday. He's got 2 years left after this year at $6.1 million. I don't think anything's going to happen imminently, but this is very similar to Tampa Bay with Vasilevsky as the young guy coming in and Bishop. And I think they would get a lot more in the trade market for Holtby than they would that Tampa Bay would have or did get for Bishop. Maybe Tampa Bay.
I agree, especially if they traded him at the draft this year, but that would be only if they're 100% sold on Samsonov, which they could be.
Right.
But it's tough to go into a season with a rookie goalie, although I think the Canadians won their last Stanley Cup with a rookie goalie, right? So.
Yeah, I don't remember his name though. Yeah. They had a history of winning with rookie goaltenders too.
Well, not the last one. The last one he wasn't a rookie anymore for the last one, but they did win with a rookie goalie.
They did back when I was like 5 years old. So it was ancient history.
What was that? 85, 86, something like that?
No. I'm thinking of Dryden, 70, 71, 70.
Oh, okay.
Or 70. No. I don't think Raw was a rookie. I think he was a second year.
Yeah, I think he was second year. But Dryden was a rookie. That's right. Dryden was
a rookie.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the reason why John Tortorella decided to not even have a press availability was because the Edmonton Oilers laid a 7-2 whooping on the Blue Jackets. And coming out of this game, it was announced that Dubinsky has suffered a broken orbital bone. And they don't know, the extent of how long he's going to be out, but that could be something short term. It could be something long term. You don't know.
He's a tough guy, but the orbital bone is a hard one, man. That's painful for players. I feel bad. That's bad.
Now, Connor McDavid had only had one goal in the game, but obviously, he had
a pretty great goal though.
Yeah, it was late. I mean, the game was already decided at that point. But that's the
worst thing, by the way. If you're playing Edmonton and they've got a lead on you, McDavid will just beat you down at the end of a game, because you still have to cover the guy. It's like.
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk about it a lot on Monday, but in watching, first of all, they were in Toronto on Sunday, and Toronto won 1-0, and McElhinney stood on his head.
Yeah.
There was no answer for McDavid. He blew around Ron Hainsey on one play like he was standing still. And Ron Hainsey is, for a veteran guy, is fairly mobile.
Right.
And only because McElhinney stick checked and threw like a Johnny Bauer poke check did he not score. But they had no answer for him. And you're talking about, Columbus, a team that's pretty good defensively, has a good defensive core. And as I said, you have McDavid with a goal and 3 assists. So I still think Columbus is having a pretty good year. They're doing 19-11-1. So, and they, up until yesterday, they were atop the Metropolitan Division. But that division is so close. Yesterday there were 5 teams within 4 points of each other.
Yeah, right now there's still that 5 in the Metro thing happening, and the chances are increasing because Detroit's failing. Boston's already moved into position, so it's really up to Montreal to break that or not. That's what it looks like it's boiling down to.
Yeah. Andrei Vasilevsky, 32 save shutout against the Blues, which is a tough thing to do. He's okay. He's not bad.
He's probably the Vezina leader right now.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
Hullebuck might be up there.
He'd be in the running, but I think the Vezina leader is Andrei Vasilevsky. But I don't get to vote on the Vezina, so
Yeah, I wish I did. Tyler Johnson, Braden Point. I have to say,
when you become GM someday, Mike, then you can.
There you go. I have to say, all the attention right now with Tampa is Kucherov and Stamkos, and them potentially being 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Braden Point is, I think one of the best young players and sort of unsung heroes right now in the NHL. He's got 28 points in 30 games, 13 goals. This guy was in Syracuse at like the 30 game mark last year.
Yeah, it's crazy how good he's gotten. I always liked Braden Point. I've talked to the kid. He's very level-headed and a hard worker and a quick learner. And, boy, he's exceeded expectations, at least for my end.
Yeah. Couple other games. Minnesota 2-1 winners over Calgary, but there was some news this afternoon regarding Devin Dubnyk having an MRI. So
it's bad for my fantasy team.
Yep. Yeah. But I think we realize that any chance of Minnesota, getting one of those top 3 spots in the Central or the 2 wild cards lies heavily on the shoulders of Dubnyk. And if he's out, if it's a serious injury, then I think that their playoff chances take a pretty big hit.
They do.
Blackhawks win 3-2 over the Panthers. We still continue to hear that the Panthers are looking for goaltending help because the Luongo injury appears to be long-term. And I don't know if Reimer was the starter last night. I'll look through the box score here, but
I thought that I heard he was.
Yeah, I'm just double checking here. Reimer, 25 saves on 28 shots. So he takes the loss. And I just think that, that team really is never going to win consistently with James Reimer in goal. It was Patrick Kane scoring an overtime goal. And I did not see the goal, but Kane, Taves, and Saad scored for Chicago. So the big guys came to the forefront for the Blackhawks. And finally, the Marc-Andre Fleury comes back. And, he faces 37 shots on goal and gets into a shootout. Hurricanes beat the Golden Knights 3-2, who picked up Ryan Carpenter off of waivers from the San Jose Sharks. I don't know a lot about Carpenter.
I don't either.
Yeah, but you know,
I'll look and see if I have him in my notes, though. I will do that.
Yeah, this is, you know, you see that, you know, now I don't know if we can draw any conclusions from a Vegas scout being at the game yesterday, but they're still in the playoff race. And they're still out there, like, looking on the waiver wire. I mean, they picked up Malcolm Subban off from Boston, and that is proved to be a pretty good move because Subban looks, you know, finally he's gotten an opportunity with Vegas that he's going to carving out his, you know, position for an NHL career.
Yeah.
Carpenter, I believe I think he's in the 23 to 24-year-old range. I don't think he's an older player. So this is somebody that they see a future for. So, I mean, I don't think it's a bad move. It's a low risk move for them, and you have players really fighting for futures there. So Carpenter is 26. Okay.
Yeah, I got nothing on him.
Yeah, 26. He played 54 games with the San Jose Barracuda last year, 39 points, 4 points in 11 games with the Sharks. So it might be, I mean, this appears to be a depth move. He's a center, so he can, you know, I don't know what. What's that?
You said he's a center, so he could center.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying center is maybe an area of weakness for that team. So they yeah. So anyway.
Very exciting move. I agree.
Yeah. So much so that we mentioned it. Okay, let's touch on the World Junior a little bit. There's been some news in the last few days when Russia announced their preliminary roster. Clem Kostin, the St. Louis Blues first-round pick, and a few other notable prospects were included. And then this morning it was
Andrei Svechnikov, who could be first or second overall this year, is a big cog, and he's obviously he's playing again, so his injury didn't keep him out. We were wondering if it would. Yeah,
and this morning it was announced that Philip Chytil, and I think I've got the pronunciation right, Chytil, thank you, there you go. The Rangers first-round pick will be playing for the Czech Republic. So, and then also with Team Canada, Victor Mete, who was playing with the Canadians, was loaned out for Team Canada, and according to what Bob McKenzie is saying, he believes Mete will be one of the top 4 defenders for Canada.
Yeah, they've got Cale Clay, they've got Cale Makar, they've got Jake Bean, they've got a nice little defense there. Yeah. So, but just concentrating on Canada for a second. I mean, I think he can handle the pressure because he played in the tournament last year. But there's a lot of, you know, pressure and a lot of attention being placed on Carter Hart as the guy who can carry Canada to, you know, to the goal, because, you know, he's having such a great year in the WHL right now, and he's got experience, and he's 19 years old. But he's won goalie of the week three weeks in a row now.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, goaltending can just carry you so far. Your team does have to score, and I you know, there's a lot of talent there, but I think, you know, you can't just say it's Carter Hart. If they have that Carter Hart, they can win it all. Well, I mean,
last year I thought he was really good. I know they pulled him, but Team Canada pulls everybody. But when he came back, he was really good. I expect him to be excellent. I think he's the best goalie in the tournament. Not worried about him one bit, but there is always that Team Canada effect, and that's an issue. And so you have to see. I mean, right now, I don't think the pressure's too much for him. I think he's a kid that's sort of locked in for it. But once you get there, it could all change. I mean, it's a hostile crowd. You know, it's a U.S. crowd, so – and it's not a Philly market, so, you know, nobody's going to take it easy on Carter Hart. So we'll
yeah, I don't know how much of a hostile crowd it's going to be in Buffalo. You got to remember, Russ, it was basically a home game when they played the final here a few years ago. And Canada,
only because it was against Russia. If it's against the U.S., it's a different story, I think.
Right, but
I know there's a lot of Canadians mixed in, but I think the Americans would still be pretty loud. I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it may be a half crowd for a U.S. game, but I think if it gets down to the medal round, the later part of the tournament, it's going to be all Canada.
Yeah, but Canada's really good. But again, like I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago, like they always act like they have this tremendous surplus of players. Maybe they do, but they haven't won a gold in 8 years in this tournament.
Yeah. 4 games on the schedule tonight. Rangers get the benefit of having the Senators playing the second of back-to-back games. You have Dallas and the New York Islanders. The rivalry night game on NBCSN, that great rivalry between the Bruins and Red Wings.
Woo!
Yeah, rivalry? What rivalry? And I think
I'm sure back in the day, like who was?
I remember the Johnny Busick for Terry.
Johnny Thompson, was he a goalie for Boston?
No, I thought he was like the New York Americans.
I forget the name of the goalie. Like I was trying to come up with a name. I'm sure for him it was a big deal, but I can't remember.
Yeah, like I said,
I fanned on the old goalie reference.
The biggest deal ever made was like 1955 was Johnny Busick for Terry Sawchuk.
Right.
And the Nashville Predators play the much loved.
Oh, Johnny Thompson did play for the Bruins. Screw you, Mike.
Damn it. Okay.
Actually, he played for the Bruins from 28 to 38. And actually, no, to 39, and then he only played his last 2 years for Detroit. You were completely 100% wrong, just so you know.
Who the hell am I thinking of that played for the New York Americans?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, most people don't even know there was a New York Americans.
One year, Tiny Thompson had a 1.15 goals against.
Not bad.
He was tiny, but he was good.
He was good. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello.
Hey, you said you were going to take questions from the chat room.
Okay, no. Yeah, give me a.
By the way, we pissed somebody off, or you did. I want to let you know that there was a guy. What was his name now? Just ain't that way. He was really mad that you mocked the election, the Alabama election. So I said, hey, it was a joke. Whatever. All right. So we move on. I'm just letting you know. Brandon wants to know, should the Rangers trade Nash and Grabner? And if so, what would they get back? I think they're going to – Nash has pretty much said he's going to ride it out. So he's got a no trade. I don't think he's going anywhere. Now, Grabner, could he get dealt? Yeah, but you know what? He's the king of the empty net goal. And for the regular season, you need that. You might even need it in the playoffs. I mean,
that's pretty much the only time you can score on a breakaway when it's an empty net.
Let's see. I got to see how many goals he has, but I'm telling you, he's got an inordinate amount of empty net goals this year. Let's see, though. Because you know what happens late in the game, if he's out there, if there's a mistake, he gets the pull away. Yeah, he just pulls away from everybody. So, I mean, it's not a total negative. He has 14 goals and 2 assists. If I had to guess on how many empty netters, I would say probably a 7 or 8.
14 goals and 2 assists. He's bucking to be Brandon Fury. What is this?
Well, again, you don't get many assists on empty net goals when you're like one of the fastest guys in hockey, right? So, all right, so that's that question. How much will Brady Shea get on his new contract? That's a really good one. Brady Shea on his new contract will get – I think they're going to give him the full ride. I think he's going to get 8 years, and I think they'll try and pull him in at around maybe
4.8.
5.5 because it's New York. 4.8 would be anybody else's price. New York ends up having to pay more.
So you think they're gonna go max on him?
Yeah, I think they're gonna go max on him. What do you think the Sens would want from the Leafs for Jean-Gabriel Pageau?
I don't think the Leafs are interested in Pageau. And if they were, say that they are, I would think that more than likely. Ottawa would be looking for a guy who they could retain for a number of years. So a younger player, probably a Kasperi Kapanen or, I don't think it would be a Soshnikov because he's been sitting on the bench and he's got waiver problems just like, it'd probably be, I'd say, a Bracco or Kapanen, but I really don't think the Leafs are interested in him. He's a smallish center, and I think one thing that Babcock is looking for is size up the middle.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was curious what Eddie was saying. He retracted 2 messages, but okay, that's on Eddie. Who are your early candidates for the Calder? All right, so we can both get into that. I'll tell you Besser, Barzal. I'll tell you Keller is still in it, and Sergachev are I would say they're my main ones this moment.
Right. I agree with all those, and I know that you said Subban.
Subban, if he gets some games, it depends now with Fleury, right? He could just ride the pine for weeks. I mean, it all depends how they're going to play Fleury. Subban could get in it, but right now he's on the outside. How much do we think Larkin and Mantha will get next season?
I think Larkin is an 8-year guy at probably 6 to 6.5.
I think he's going to get less than that because I still think he hasn't fully regained the form. So I'm going to go with like 5 point something for 8 years on him. Now Mantha has been proven it. Mantha's going to be expensive. I don't think they're going to go max contract with Mantha.
No, they'll go 6 years because I think there's still that specter hanging over him.
Yeah.
Within that organization, the Jimmy Devellano, let's trade him now type of thing, and Devellano's still part of that organization in terms of decision making. So
Mantha, I think, will get 6 years, and I think he will get 6 to 6.5 because right now. He's got 12 goals. He could get 20 this year. Last year, he had 12 goals. Year before, 17. Like he's scoring more goals than Larkin. Larkin's a great player. I mean, but again, he hasn't gone back to where he was really a couple of years ago yet. And I don't know if it's because of the team. I'm not seeing him enough to be able to give you the full answer on. Like, what's up? I mean, he is only 21, right? I think we probably all got too excited too quick. He's got 23 points. I mean, so he's close to being back on that. I think he is still capable of being, close to a point-a-game player, but he won't be a point-a-game.
I think he's back to where he was as a rookie. I just think that team is not very good, and there's not a lot of support there.
Yeah. All right, we answered the Mantha. We answered that. What are Elias Anderson's and Cheadle's ceiling? We'll leave that as the last one. I think they're both ceiling is top liner. I don't know if Hedel is a center. We'll see how that shakes out. Anderson is definitely a center. It could be a situation sort of like with Draisaitl where, you go Anderson and then Hedel ends up being a winger on that top line. That's a possibility. We'll see.
Okay. All right. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.